Babylon was once a vassal state of the mighty Assyrian Empire. Like the Israelites, the Babylonians had long suffered under Assyrian oppression. But in 605 BCE, a new Babylonian king rose to power, Nebuchadnezzar II, one of the most renowned rulers of the Neo-Babylonian Empire. His father, Nabopolassar, was the founder of the Chaldean dynasty, and his mother a princess from the Median kingdom on the Iranian plateau. Their alliance greatly strengthened both nations, and together they destroyed the once invincible Assyrian Empire, reducing its great capital, Nineveh, to ashes. From a young age, Nebuchadnezzar proved to be both brave and skilled in war. He followed his father into countless battles, a true warrior king. Yet he was not only a conqueror, he was also a visionary builder and architect. Among his greatest achievements stood the magnificent city of Babylon. It was one of the 7 wonders of the ancient world. Greek poets called it the city of 100 gates for centuries. It was thought to be a myth until archaeologists uncovered its ruins in modern times. One of the most breathtaking remains is the Ishtar Gate, now housed in the Pergamon Museum in Germany. Covered entirely in deep blue glazed bricks, Nebuchadnezzar's favorite color is shimmered like the reflection of the Euphrates under a clear sky. Reliefs of lions and bulls adorned the walls, as if they were walking gracefully along the riverbank. Even today, those who behold it can only describe it with one word: awe. When Jewish nobles were later exiled to Babylon, they were astonished by the city's grandeur. Compared with Babylon, even their beloved Zion seemed like a small provincial town. No wonder Nebuchadnezzar boasted, "People of all nations will praise this city I have built." His second monumental project was the Temple of Marduk, dedicated to Babylon's chief deity. Believing that a god should dwell closer to the heavens, Nebuchadnezzar ordered the temple to be built ever higher until it towered over 100 meters tall, earning the name the Tower of Babel, or Gate of the Gods. The Bible offers another version of the story, that humankind sought to build a tower to reach heaven, but God, angered by their arrogance, confused their languages and scattered them across the earth. Nebuchadnezzar is also credited with another wonder, the Hanging Gardens of Babylon. After marrying a Median princess who longed for the green hills of her homeland, he built a vast terraced garden to ease her homesickness. The gardens rose layer upon layer, supported by massive stone columns, with water lifted by ingenious chain-driven pumps, nourishing the lush trees. Lush trees and flowers flourished high above the desert sand. It was a paradise suspended in midair, a true marvel. In truth, Nebuchadnezzar could have been a master architect had he not been destined to be a king. But he was also a formidable warrior, leading his armies to victory. In 597 BCE, and again in 586 BCE, he crushed the kingdom of Judah, defeated the Egyptians, and captured Jerusalem, turning Judah into a Babylonian vassal state. When Egypt later waged war against Babylon, the Judean king Jehoiakim took advantage of Babylon's temporary weakness and rebelled, aligning himself with Egypt. Enraged by this betrayal, Nebuchadnezzar retaliated with overwhelming force. After 3 years, his armies returned stronger than ever, besieging Jerusalem and capturing its king, fulfilling his wrath. The Babylonian ruler ordered that Judah's nobles, priests, merchants, and craftsmen be taken as captives to Babylon. This event became known as the Babylonian Captivity, a period of exile. Nebuchadnezzar appointed Zedekiah, Jehoiakim's uncle, as a puppet king. But soon after swearing loyalty to Babylon, Zedekiah again conspired with Egypt. Furious, Nebuchadnezzar laid siege to Jerusalem once more. This time, he surrounded the city completely, cutting off its water supply. For 18 long months, starvation ravaged the city, until, at last, Jerusalem fell, succumbing to the siege. Zedekiah tried to flee but was captured. Before his eyes, Nebuchadnezzar ordered the execution of his sons, then had Zedekiah's eyes gouged out, a cruel fate, declaring, "The last thing you shall ever see is the death of your sons." Bound in bronze chains, the blinded king was taken to Babylon, where he died in prison. A tragic end. Jerusalem was then destroyed. Solomon's glorious first temple was burned to the ground. The sacred Ark of the Covenant vanished forever. The city walls were torn down. Jerusalem lay in ruins. In Jewish memory, Nebuchadnezzar became the accursed one, the tool of God's wrath sent to punish his people. Yet among the exiles were not commoners, but nobles, priests, and scholars, the intellectual and spiritual elite of Judah. In captivity, they reflected deeply on their downfall. They realized it was their loss of faith and moral decay that had led to the destruction of their nation. From this suffering was born renewal. In Babylon, they began compiling sacred writings, including the Talmud of Babylon, a monumental work second only to the Bible in Jewish life. It preserved their laws, wisdom, and reflections on faith. The book of Daniel records that although the Jews seemed destined to vanish like other conquered peoples, they instead turned their disaster into spiritual strength, a foundation for later beliefs in divine judgment and redemption. This very experience would influence both the Book of Revelation in Christianity and the rise of Islamic theology centuries later. The Jews, though deeply afflicted, did not disappear like the Assyrians or the Philistines. Through faith and discipline, they endured. They observed the Sabbath with renewed devotion, circumcised their sons, kept kosher laws, and preserved their distinct identity, their covenant with God never forgotten. Meanwhile, Nebuchadnezzar continued his conquests. He laid siege to the Phoenician city of Tyre, whose wealthy inhabitants resisted fiercely. For 13 years, Babylonian forces surrounded the city until at last Tyre surrendered. Nebuchadnezzar's patience and determination once again brought Babylon to the height of its glory. And yet, at the peak of his power, the great king had a dream, one that would haunt him. In the next chapter, we will hear the story of Daniel and the king's dream.